Yom Shishi B'Shabbos. Today is Friday. It's Yodal Malcheshvan. And this is the regular Maimer schedule. In other words, Thursday is G-Dliness, Friday is Maimer. I think next week I'm going to break the rule already. So there you have it for keeping rules. Because there's two Chayesadas. But this is a Maimer from Tafshim Memches, 1987, 88, Vayera, Vayta Aishel B'Shava. And I prepared the Maimer. And the Maimer on the surface is very simple. And the Maimer under the surface totally befuddles me. I don't know what the Rebbe is trying to say. It's based on a Maimer from Friedrich and Rebbe from Tzadik Ches, from 50 years before, which I actually took out and looked over this morning when I was preparing this Maimer. And I wrote a note on the second side of the page. If you can read my handwriting and decipher what my brain is exuding, you'll see my struggle. But don't ask me to decipher my own handwriting, because once I write it, I can't read it anymore. First of all, the story? The story Bekitzat is, let me just tell you one line from the Maimer. The Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer. It's a really delicious line. It's the very end of Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer, where the Friedrich Rebbe says, Avraham Avinu was Zoiche to the great and Yonam of Gilui Lakus. Because Kirmos, I'm not going to tell you precisely, but this is the spirit. Shemosar kol hasagoisav belakus. On the side, he put aside all of his intellect of understanding the Eibishter aside and devoted himself to the Maaseh of being Mefarsem Elokus Yisbarach Vayela. What brought Avraham Avinu the incredible advantage, the incredible schar that he should be Mamshach Gilui Lakus into this world? And of course, it's a Yerusha, Lebon Avachra Avadelam. It's the fact that he was Moiser. He sacrificed his great mind, who was completely preoccupied with ideas about the Eibishter, to be involved in Asiyah. And what is Asiyah that he got involved with? The Farsam Elokus Yisbarach Vayela, to teach the world about it, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, about one God. And of course, the story is Avraham came to Eretz Yisrael, we're not sure when, or Canaan as it was called then. And he made many, many trips in and out of the country. We know for sure that when Avraham Avinu arrived at 75, which was the beginning of last week's Parsha Lech Lecha, that was not the first time he had been to Canaan. He'd been there before, because the Bris Ben Absadim had taken place 5 years earlier in Eretz Canaan. And he spent 25 years in Hebron. Then he spent 26 years in Be'er Sheva. After Yitzchak was born, he moved to Be'er Sheva, which I guess is further south, closer to Plishtim. And then he spent 11 years back in Hebron. Then you had the story with Akedas Yitzchak, which is the end of this week's Parsha. And it says in the Pasuk, V'yesh Avram be'er Shava, Avram settled in Be'er Sheva, but that was very, very short-lived, because immediately after, Avram discovered that his Rebbetzin and his wife had passed away, and he came back. V'yaveh Avram came back to Hebron, live case l'sadav lispei l'sadav liv kesa, to eulogize and to mourn and to bury Sadav Meinu. And of course, the strategy of Avraham Avinu's living was not based on economics and on farming and on grazing land and so forth, even though Avraham was incredibly wealthy. It was based on maximizing the opportunity to be Meifetz Achdas Hashem. Avraham Avinu's identity was devoted to teaching the world about God. That's what he lived for. And he lived in Hebron because that was a logistical place. He left Hebron after Sodom was destroyed. Rashi says there was no longer travelers. The routes were, I guess, diverted. 26 years later, apparently there was reason again to go back to Hebron. I don't know how to explain the history, because we don't have a record of it, but probably what happened there is, over the quarter century between the destruction of Sodom and Avram's return to Hebron, either they made a new route or something happened and people started to pass through Hebron again. Avram moved back to Hebron. And all he did over the course of this period, over the course of his life, from the age of 75, and he passed away at 175 for 100 years, was teach people about God. So he set up his tent, he set up his home in a place where he would meet most people. which is on the road in the desert. In other words, in a place where people are bottlenecked, they can't spread out over a wide area, they have to travel on a particular route. And he provided them with food and shelter. Aishel, achila shtia lina, achila shtia levaya, achila shina levaya, the different versions of it. And he taught people about God. This is what Avraham Avinu did. So when he moved from Chevron to Be'er Sheva, the Torah says, Vayta Aishel. In other words, just as Avraham lived in Chevron for 25 years, from the age of 75 to the age of 100, he obviously had a place to live, and in this place of dwelling, he brought people in and so forth. Now that he moved to a new location, to Be'er Sheva, the Torah tells us, Vayta Aishel, he planted an Aishel. In our Parsha classes that we do Sunday nights, last year's class, which is on the internet if you want to look it up, was about Vayta Aishel Be'er Sheva. This year we did Tachas Ha'etz. I have yet to put it on the net. I hope to do it this afternoon, Mitzvah. But last year's class is already there. Vayta Aishel Be'er Sheva. Of course, the question Rashi brings down: what was Aishel? What does Aishel? Does Aishel mean a large tree? Some say it means a garden of trees, or does it mean a tent? But whatever the interpretation of the word Aishel is, whether it means a tent or it means a tree, the idea was a place that brings an oasis, a place where people would like to come to for R&R, to rest and recuperate on a journey. And this was Avraham Avinu's opportunity to teach people about the Eibishter. So the Torah tells us, Vayta Aishel Be'er Sheva. Avraham Avinu plants an Aishel, whatever Aishel means. And like I said to you, Aishel either means a pundek, which means a hotel, or it means a tree, please. Or it means a tree. In either case, the purpose was Mefasim al Kusiyas Baruch Ba'elam. And then it says, Vayikra Sham, he called there B'Shem Hashem Keileilam. So the Frierdiker brings in his Maimah, there brings it also. The Gemara says that Tikra Vayikra Ela Vayakri. Avram didn't simply announce that there was a God. Vayakri means he made others call. That he was Mefarsim. Shmei Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'fi Kol Leiv Hashem. Avram Avinu taught and revealed and inspired in mankind the sense of one God. And he announced that there's an Eibishter. Now here we have a Maimer which explains this pasuk. There's a kasha, there's a teretz. If you look in the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer, in fact the teretz is quite vague. In other words, the first thing that the Rebbe is doing is he's crystallizing the Frierdiker Rebbe's teretz. Although if you read the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer and you read the Rebbe's teretz, you can argue that what the Rebbe is saying is different than what the Frierdiker Rebbe says, even though this is based on the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer. But it's not such a big problem. And then the Rebbe, so to speak, takes it to the next level. So I'm going to learn the Maimer with you. I mean, I wrote on the margin here what I think the Maimer is about, but I'm really not sure. So let's go. Vayta Aishel Be'er Sheva. Avraham Avinu plants an Aishel. Aishel means, however you translate Aishel, an environment that invites people in, so that he can teach them about the Eibishter in a place called Be'er Sheva. Vayikra Sham, and he announced there B'Shem Hashem Keileilam, the name of God, that he is God of the world. In other words, you should know that there's a God. And this God is not only the creator of the world, but he's the master of the world. And as you see the preciseness in the language, it doesn't say Keil Ha'olam, God of the world, it says God the world, which is meant to indicate that there's a perfect unity between the creator and this creation. The Frierdiker Rebbe wonders, in his Maimer, Vayta Aishel, the Shabbos Parsha Vayera Tirchotz, from 1937-38, what's the connection between planting a garden or a tree and announcing the name of the Eibishter? I'll be planting this tree or this garden. Through this, we're able to teach the world about God. Now, I just told you the connection. The connection is you want to attract people. You want to bring people in. So you want to make it appealing. How do you make it appealing? You make it comfortable. So the simple tithe for Vayta Aishel is not even in question. Obviously, Avraham made a tree or a garden or a hotel to provide accommodations for travelers, so they should want to come into his lodging, so that he'd have an opportunity to be able to share with the Eibishter with him. When the Frierdiker Rebbe asks this question, what he's really asking is, why is this so important? The Torah tells it to us. You know, all it has to say, he settled in Be'er Sheva and he taught people about God. We'll figure it out ourselves. That if he wanted to teach people about God, he had to create that environment. Why is it important for the Torah to specifically articulate this idea of Vayta Aishel? Or maybe as then the Frierdiker Rebbe continues, Masha Amr Razal, what the Gemara says, Al Tikra Vayikra Ela Vayakri. Avraham didn't simply call, but he got others to call. Malame, which means to say. Avraham announced the name of God Almighty but amongst passers-by. Ketzad, what does this mean? People came in, they ate and they drank. They got up to thank him. He said to them, did you eat my own? We ate the food of the master of the world. Acknowledge and praise and bless to the one who said, and they brought the worlds into beings. That explains the link. By planting an Aishel, which the Rebbe translates as a pundik. Pundik means a hotel. And this is further underscored according to the abbreviation. The word Aishel is an abbreviation. That Aishel is Rosh Tevis. Achila, Shtia, Levaya. Achila means to give people to eat. Shtia means people to give to drink. And Levaya means to accompany people. It's very, very important that when you have a guest, when he's leaving, you accompany him. There's an implication in the Parsha of Egla Arufa that when you accompany a person, even a short distance, when they leave your home, you're giving them a shmita that there's nothing should happen to them when they journey. Because if the people had to say, the Skadim had to say that we didn't abandon this person. They find a dead man on the road, no one knows. Mihikahu, so it was a whole ritual that had to be done, and one of the things that the people had to say is, we did not neglect him. And part of that, the Indian is that you have to accompany him. There's an implication that when you give someone Levaya, you accompany him, even though you don't walk him all the way to the next town. It's a very, very significant thing. And in footnote 6, the Rebbe makes a reference to the Rebbe's reference in Tafshin Tes. There's a number of different Rosh Tevisim for Aishel. Either Achila Shtia Levia, which means accompaniment, or Achila Shtia Lina, which means sleep, or Achila Shina Levaya. There's various different interpretations. Bottom line is, someone comes into your home and you provide them for all of their needs. By providing people with their needs, he made call the name of God in the mouths of all the passers-by, and that's the continuity. He built himself a hotel, he built himself an accommodation which is very appealing, and he used it for to teach people about the Eibshter. Right? On a basic level, the question is off. In other words, if you want to read this Maimah peripherally, that should be a satisfactory explanation. Torah tells us that Avraham built a hotel, as the Rebbe brings in this Maimah, to provide accommodations to people so that they have an opportunity to teach them about the Eibshter. But I don't think that that's the whole story. I think that the Maimah is trying to say something much more meaningful about the mention, the reference to this hotel. And now goes the question. Frierdiker Rebbe has a question, and the Rebbe asks the same question. What did Avraham do? He taught people about the Eibshter. When Avraham Avinu was able to teach people about God, by hosting them, he explained to them that they ate the food of the God of the world. In other words, he talked to them about God as the creator, as the Bashafa. In other words, he inspired in them, and of course if they were more intelligent, he probably discussed philosophy with them. If they were less intelligent, he spoke to them more elementary, more basically. He impressed upon people that only God could create. The idea of evolution, the idea of spontaneous creation, and arbitrary order is ridiculous. There's a master that created to the world. Okay? But when you talk about the Eibshter as the creator of the world, you're dealing only with Teva. When it says Havaya again, that Avraham Avinu called Shem Hashem. If Avraham Avinu talked to him about Hashem, to use Hasidic Sprach, he didn't talk to them about Sevav Kalaman. He didn't talk to them about higher than Sevav Kalaman. In other words, Avraham Avinu was not, like you have in the Moreh Hasidus, trying to appeal to people's emunah, which is higher than Seichel, where people have to believe in things they cannot understand. To the contrary, he wanted to teach people about believing in a God that they could understand, what Chassidus would call Memala Kalam. Right? A person believes. People believe for different reasons. The most basic basis for faith is reason. I understand the Eibshter, so I believe in him. But when you understand the Eibush that you believe in him, what do you believe in? The Eibush that you're able to understand. What Eibush that you're able to understand? The creator of the world. And that's it. Which in the Lashon Chassidus is Mamali Kol Almin. So the question becomes, V'im Kain, thus a new question emerges. Ma'usha Kosav, why does the Torah say, Vayikra Sham B'Shem Havaya, V'Geimed, that Avraham Avinu called in the name of Havaya? V'Are Bebrias Ha'el Nem Shem Lakim. Abraham is teaching the world about God, but only God as He is necessary, as He is indicated, as He is, so to speak, required based on the reality of the world, and not beyond. Right? I mean, the simple steps of this process, of course, is when a person uses his own mind to come to God. Where does he begin? With himself. What's the proof that there's a God? That I am. That's the proof. So if you look at the world and you ask yourself, how did this world get here? And somehow you have enough integrity and enough fearlessness to come to the conclusion that there's something outside of the universe which is the reason for it. But if you start with the world, and that becomes the catapult, that becomes the stimulus for your sense of the Creator, you only know Hashem in as much as He is a Creator. That's Shem Elokim. So why does it say Shem Havaya? The question therefore is, the Torah should tell us, if Abraham is teaching people about the Eibishter, but emphatically the Eibishter, Derech HaTava, it should say B'Shem Elokim, and the question is, Lo Maske Shem Havaya. Why does it say V'Ikra B'Shem Hashem? If the issue is, as the Gemara specifies, that he told them about the creator of the world, why does the Chumash say V'Ikra B'Shem Havaya? Let me give you a contrast. Yeah? A couple of hundred years later, Avraham Avinu's great-great-great-great-grandson goes to Pare. And he says to Pare, Kol Yom Hashem, the same Hashem. And Pare says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Lo Yadaiti Es Havaya, I never heard of your God named Havaya, and therefore, V'gam B'nei Yisrael Le'ashalech, I'm not going to let the Jewish people go. So how does it explain the Midrash Chazal? Pare had a huge ledger of gods. He had a whole encyclopedia of gods. The Alter brings in Tanya that in this Man HaShas, Man of Avraham Avinu, there was, I think, 400 Sidrei Mishnah in Hilchas Avodah Zarah, 400 Prachim. I mean, he was so many more Avodah Zarahs. And Avraham Pare takes his big book and he goes through it. There's no God by the name of Shem Havaya. So he says to Moshe Rabbeinu, your God's not my book. Tell me about your God. And Moshe Rabbeinu says in one sentence, this is the God of the supernatural, the God of the miracle. He says, Pare, that's a lie. That's all. There's no such thing. Nature is God, God is nature. Leidaiti es Havaya. And the Midrashim say, Pare says to Moshe, if you would tell me, Kayamar Alekeinu, I'd get nervous. Because Alekim, a universal God of nature, which is already a big chiddush relative to the God of Crown Street, and to the God of Montgomery Street, and the God of President Street. One God of the whole universe is quite difficult for somebody to handle. But if you're talking about the God of nature, I can understand that I have what to fear. I have to think about it. But you tell me, Kayamar Hashem says, Pari, such a God does not exist. Miracles cannot happen. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of your God. So when Moshe says to Pari, Kayamar Hashem, and Pari says to Moshe, if you'll tell me Kayamar Alekim, I may listen to you. But if you're saying Kayamar Hashem, I'm not going to take you seriously because there is no God of the supernatural. And then the story unfolds. Pari discovers that there is a God of the supernatural, and he's pretty powerful, and he has a real effect on this real world. But this is the exact opposite. Avraham is not talking to people about the supernatural. To the contrary, Avraham is talking about Teva. He's talking about the world. Avraham Avinu was not trying to get people to be Jews. He's trying to make them good goyim. A goy doesn't have to believe in the supernatural. He has to believe in order and a master. And ultimately in the Sheva Mitzvahs Ninech. So Avraham says, this world is a mistake. The Eibishter made this world. Frag the Rebbe, just like Pari protests Moshe Rabbeinu, say Elokim and I'll take you seriously, here it's Faket. Why does Avraham Avinu say Shem Havaya? He should say Shem Elokim. Because this is what he was dealing with. Avraham was teaching people about Shem Elokim. He should say, Vayikra Sham B'Shem Elokim Kelel. And the Rebbe continues. And the following, I think, is not in the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimed. This is the Rebbe Sagot. This pasuk, this question, and this question I believe is the Rebbe's word. It's not in the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimed. It says, Vayta Aishel b'Ve'er Shava. He planted the Aishel in Be'er Sheva. The Mispah Sheva made out Shavitas. The word Sheva means 7 meters, right? What is the name Be'er Sheva from? Be'er Sheva has to do with the wells. Avraham Avinu dug 7 wells. They kept on arguing. The 7th well was peaceful one. So Be'er Sheva has to do with the number 7. And the Rebbe's argument is, skip the bracket please, Shem Zayin Yemei Habin Nishmei Nevarim. The remez, the illusion, the hint of the number 7 is the world. Because we know that the Eibishter created the world with the 7 attributes. So even though Vayta Aishel Be'er Sheva is just, it's a geographical location, Tzachakal, but there's a remez of Vayta Aishel Be'er Sheva means to say that the tent that he planted was in the world. In the world meaning to say that the issue that Avraham Avinu was engaged in is with the world and the Eibishter in as much as the worlds are concerned. The question is further. Madua Messiah b'Shem Havaya, why does it conclude with Shem Havaya? Since Avraham Avinu, in stark contrast to Moshe Rabbeinu, as I explained before, is not addressing a lakus which is higher than the world, but to the contrary, he is emphatically addressing a lakus which is contained within the limitations of the world. So he should say Vayta Aishel Be'er Sheva. Be'er Sheva means the world. Why does it say B'Shem Hava? Turn the page. And the answer is based on the Friedrich Ebesheim. Friedrich Ebesheim is very, very long. And it goes into this whole thing about Avraham Avinu, Kim, Kol Atei Kul Actually Nitna, and he explains the Kabbalah, what it means. The very end of the Mayim, we have the answers. The Mashakos of Khan, when it says here, Vayikra Sham B'Shem Havaya, that when the Torah tells us that Avraham Avinu announced to the world Shem Havaya, it's Ko Yal Bechinas Havaya Dilatata HaMislabish B'Shem Elikim. It doesn't mean the same Shem Havaya that Moshe Rabbeinu told Parei. It means the lower Shem Havaya. What's the lower Shem Havaya? The lower Shem Havaya that goes into Shem Elikim. In other words, the Rebbe has a letter where he summarizes Shem Havaya. The Shem Havaya has 3 basic definitions. And the word basic is very important because specifically there are thousands of definitions of Shem Havaya. The highest definition of Havaya is Shem HaMiyuchad, Shem HaMfura, Shem Etzem, Hashem's name, whatever that means. The second level of Shem Havaya, which is the typical one, is that it goes on Oyer Ein Sof and G-Dliness. And if Havaya goes on Ein Sof, the translation of the word would be Haya Hayve V'yi, Echad, past, present, future, saying there's no time, or time is unified. And the lowest Madrega Shem Havaya is like we have it in our Siddur, Loshen Mahava, the Creator, right? We don't say Hashem's name, right? But on the Siddur there's Nekudis. What are the Nekudis for Shem Havaya? The 3 letters Hey Vav Hey are Hoiva, which means creation, and the letter Yud has a Shva, which makes it present tense, which means that Hashem is constantly in the act of creation. This, a translation of Shem Havaya, God as the Creator, says that Rebbe means Havaya Dilatata HaMislabish B'Shem Elikim, the lower name of the Eibishter Havaya, which goes in Shem Elikim. In other words, really, when the Torah tells us Vayikra Sham B'Shem Hashem Kei Leilam and doesn't say Vayikra Sham B'Shem Elikim Kei Leilam, it's exactly the same thing. Because the Havaya that Avraham Avinu was teaching people is Shem Elikim. In other words, the way it says in Chassidus, what's a Elikim? Elikim is a screen. What does the screen accomplish? That you shouldn't see. That you shouldn't see what? Havaya. That's the Havaya he's talking about. It says in Vayta Aishel, we learned it. In other places in Chassidus there's contradictions, even in Shariach V'Amuna. But in Vayta Aishel we learned the whole Maimed here. It took us, I don't know, a year. Yeah. Elikim doesn't do anything except hide what Hashem is doing. Which Hashem is Elikim hiding? The lowest Havaya. The Havaya Loshem Hava, not Havaya which is Ein Sof, but Havaya, to put it in other words, that's concealable by Hashem Elikim. There's a power of the Eibishter which is invested in creating the world. It's called Hislapshus Keach Apel Benifel. An energy of the Eibishter which is tailored and specialized for each creation, with its own oisis, like it says in the Shariach Zamuna, that has created Mi'ayin Liyesh every second from the Keach Eliki. And that's called Havaya. That's Loshem Hava that creates. And the Elikim doesn't allow you to see that it's God. So we have a kasha, and we have a teretz. The kasha was, why does Avraham Avinu say Shem Havaya if his whole issue was to teach about the God of nature, not the God of the supernatural? Why does he say Shem Havaya and Shem Elikim? And the answer is, that's what he means. Now, if you're satisfied with that answer, then you're not learning Hasidus, you're learning Nigla. For a Rosh Hashiva, it's Ateretz. Okay, Kasha is off. You know? Let's keep reading. Avraham Avinu's introduction to the world was, he announced Shem Havaya, Keleilam. God the world, God of the world. In other words, that one must know that the world and godliness are not two separated things, that one masters and rules over the other. Paul Avraham affected Yichud to unify Havaya de Latata, the lower Havaya whose definition is creator, Hamislabish b'Shem Elokim, which is covered over by Shem Elokim, that we should see world and not God. Live as Elam to create the world. Avraham unified this Shem Havaya im ha'elam with the world. Now, so what's the teretz? Or let's say it alternatively. If Avraham meant, when he said Bikasham b'Shem Havaya Keilelim, he really meant Havaya which goes into Shem Elokim, so it's basically the same thing. It's like Hadr Kusha Duchta, let him say Elokim. He means that, yeah? He means Havaya which is Mislabish and Shem Elokim. So if you mean that level of Hashem's name, or that level of godliness that's concealable by the Koiches HaTeva and natural forces, so why call it Havaya and say I mean Havaya which is Mislabish and Shem Elokim? You might as well Shem Elokim. Say Shem Elokim. So let me tell you what the Friedrich Rebbe says in his mind. The Friedrich is a very simple thing, and it's quite logical. What's that? There's no question about it. This is not even open to the discussion that Avraham did not talk about Sevav Kalalman. Avraham didn't talk about the God of the supernatural, the absolute truth of God. He talked only about the world and the God of nature. That was the first step. But the whole point was that people should look at nature and see God and not see nature. Right? Before Avraham Avinu, what did they see? They saw a world. After Avraham Avinu, what did they see? They saw a world. What changed? That they look at this world and they say, wow, God is great. So Yikasham B'Shem Havaya Keileilam means that there should be Gilui of Havaya in Eilam, in Elokim. There is a special power of Hashem, which is called Mamalik Alam, the lowest level of godliness, who is Mislabish and Misalim, becomes manifest and hidden by Elokim, by Koiches HaTeva. And that's the Havaya Avraham called. What does that mean that that's the Havaya Avraham called? Avraham wanted to look at nature and not see nature, but see the Eibishter. You know, in Tanya chapter 42, Perek Ben Beis, there's a bunch of meditations. It's really the only Perek in Tanya without the Rebbe gives you meditations, what to think about. A bunch. Some of them are very brief, some of them are more elaborate, but there's a bunch of meditations. One of the meditations in Tanya chapter 42 is, look at anything in the world. You're seeing the Eibishter with a mask. Look at anything. Look at a leaf. Look at a tree. Look at a person. And you're seeing the Eibishter with a mask. Because what is it really? It's Eibishter. That's what Avraham Avinu did. Vayikasham b'Shem Havaya Keileilam was. He talked to them about nature, but he wanted them to see in nature Havaya, not Elokim. So the translation of the word Havaya here is not Ein Sof. The translation of the word Havaya here is Gilui. Vayikasham b'Shem Havaya. Avraham wanted to reveal Keileilam, that when you look at Eilam, when you look at the world, instead of seeing concealment, you should see Gila, you should see Keil. Now it makes sense. It isn't a technical question and a technical answer. Why does Avraham say Havaya means Elokim? And the answer is, it means Havaya, which is Meslabish and Elokim. The Friedrich Rebbe says the whole idea of Avraham Avinu was to reveal what was before concealed. But to reveal the godliness of nature, not higher in Yonim. The Eibishter created the world, and you look at the world, you don't see the Eibishter. That you should look at the world and you should see the Eibishter. That's what the Friedrich Rebbe says in his mind. But look at the Rebbe's words. The Rebbe isn't saying the same thing in my opinion. And I'm just going to tell you my observation, and we're going to move on. The Rebbe says, this is different than the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer. It says, the Chidusha shel Avraham haya, v'yikasham b'shem Hashem keil el v'keil ha'elam, sha'elam v'lakus einam shnei dvarim nifradim, el shapal yichud Havaya im ha'elam. The Friedrich Rebbe says that before Avraham Avinu, God was concealed by Shem Elokim. After Avraham Avinu, instead of Elokim concealing over Hashem Havaya, you see Havaya. And the Rebbe is saying something much, much deeper. The Rebbe is saying that Avram affected a unity between Havaya and Olam. Not just that you see the divine power that creates the world, but you see a unity between the Eibishter and the world. Now, someone may say that I'm being a nudge, The Rebbe is saying more or less what the emes is. You look at the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer, you look at the Rebbe's Maimer, they're saying almost the same thing. I just don't think they're saying the same. I think the Rebbe is saying noch avor, noch tiefer. He's not saying something which is opposite the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer, but he's saying something a little bit deeper. And let's just use these words. The Frierdiker Rebbe says that in nature, godly light is concealed. Avraham exposed the godly light. The Rebbe is saying nature is really godly. Avraham exposed the godliness of nature. Those are different. The first is saying you're bringing a light into the world, but a limited light, a light which is designed for the world. The second is saying you're revealing the light of the world. So I think that the Rebbe's word is a bit latifet. When I learned this the first time, I wrote down that this is in Kaddish Havaya, which is the idea that one of the powers of Hashem is that He's able to be fully invested in the world and not at all limited by the world. In other words, the world is fully the Eibishter and the Eibishter is not the world. So I think that Rebbe and the Frierdiker Rebbe is saying something a little bit different. The Frierdiker Rebbe is talking about Oyer and the Rebbe is talking about Olam. But the Tzad HaShavish Rebbe, what they both are saying, in my view, without a question, is that Avraham Avinu revealed the lowest dimension of godliness to the world. That was his role. And the key word in that phrase is the word revealed. Havaya, the most important thing about that choice of word is not Havaya versus Elokim, it's Gili versus Hello. That's all. Whether it means to reveal the light of nature, it means the godliness of nature itself, that's a detail. But there's something else going on here. And there's something else going on here, and I'm pretty sure about this, is that... Okay, yes, I have a question. Avraham is teaching the world about God. The world knows nothing about Hashem. So why not tell him everything? Zog zet im ganzen emes. According to the form that we're employing, Avraham talks only about the God of nature, or that nature is godly. Teva, Mamalek Alamim. Avraham Avinu, teach him about Sefer Kalam. Teach him about Atzmas Hus. Tell him the truth. Talk to them about Hashem Echad, that if you have God's perspective, we're not B'mitzias B'chlal. Why is he teaching Kelei? Now, of course, the simple answer to that question is because they weren't ready to hear it. It's a pashta teretz. But there's a deeper teretz. And I think that that's really at the heart of this maimer. The deeper teretz is if Avraham teaches them about the truth of the Eibishter, and then on the level that the truth of Hashem doesn't allow for the reality of a world, then there wouldn't be a world. In other words, if Avraham came to people and said, listen, you know what God means? That we don't exist. So the effect of Avraham's influence on people is that they would look at themselves and their reality as if it's a lie. They don't exist. They aren't. There's only God. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is that this is a complicated story. Avraham Avinu doesn't simply want to teach people about God. He wants to teach people about God in the world. In other words, Avraham is the first step. What is he setting in motion? He's setting in motion a process which will reveal to the reality, to people, that there's an Eibishter. But that's not, I didn't say it correctly. Avraham Avinu is setting in motion a process to teach people that there is an Eibishter in his world. Not that there is not a world. Avraham starts with what we're calling Mamalek Alamin because there's one advantage of Mamalek Alamin. Keil Oila means there's a world and the Eibishter is its master. Keil Oila means the world and the revelation in this world is of the Eibishter. Keil Oila means there's a world and the truth of the world is the Eibishter. But never does it mean that there's no world. And that is the real reason it says Vayta Aishel. And that is the real reason it says Beve'er Shava. Why is it important that Avraham made a pundik? Avraham made a hotel. Who cares? The teretz is because that's the whole idea. Avraham brought Hashem into the hotel. Not that he brought Hashem and the hotel disappears. Vayta Aishel. There's a world, there's people, there's eating, there's sleeping, there's drinking, there's accompanying people. And that is not going away. In this world there is a God, but not that when you reveal the God, the world vanishes. But when you reveal the world, the Eibush that He's revealed in the world. And the same is true of the next words. Be'er Shava. Be'er Shava is the name of a place. So the Rebbe asks a question. The number 7 has to do with the world. Now can you please tell me, it seems like such a kletchy question. And the Friedrich Rebbe doesn't have that question in his mind. This is the Rebbe's original question. What's the teretz? Vayta Aishel and Be'er Shava are very much a part of the Vayikra B'Shem Havaya Keileilam. Because Avraham Avinu is not only teaching people about the Eibishter. Avraham Avinu is teaching people about the Eibishter in a world. And this is why Avraham teaches them only about the God of nature. Because he wants that they should appreciate that even when there's an Eibishter, you still exist. And you still serve him. And you still have a purpose. In a hotel, and in a place called Be'er Sheva, and in a place called Olam. And that's, I think, the deeper meaning behind the beginning of this Maimon. Why is the Torah tells Avraham made a pundik? And the answer is because he wanted to have a place to teach about the Eibishter. That's what the Friedrich Rebbe is saying. He needed a place. That's Rashi is a chumash. He needed the Rebbe to say that. But he's saying something much deeper. Vayta Aishel, he makes a pundik because he wants the Eibishter should be in that pundik in such a way that the pundik still is. And the same is true with the words Be'er Shava. Shava means a world, and in this world there's an Eibishter. Never that the world disappeared. And that's also the meaning of the words. Havaya, Keileilam. Yes, there's a unity between the Eibishter and his world, but it means two things. There's a unity between the Eibishter and his world, and there's a unity between the Eibishter and his world. And that sets us up for the second half of this Maimon. What we just read, and it took us too long, is the Maimon, the Friedrich Rebbe. Friedrich Rebbe's Maimon, I think, is 12 or 13 pages. It's very long. The Rebbe summarizes it in 12 or 13 lines. Yeah, but now comes the Rebbe's Maimon. And when you appreciate what I just shared with you, what the Rebbe says now becomes meaningful. Otherwise it seems like just holy words. We all know that what our ancestors did is a sign for us. Right? Now, but the Rebbe says, what does the word siman mean? A sign. Only a sign. Now what our ancestors did is siman, it's only a sign. In other words, there's much more expected of us than of them. Why? Because we sit on their shoulders. The children come after the others, and they achieve the thing in a much more comprehensive way. Let's say binyan shalom, a complete construction, a complete edifice, a complete building. And I cannot tell you how many different ways you can translate the word binyan, but the word binyan doesn't make any sense. We're not building buildings. We're revealing the Eibishter in the world. The binyan can go on the Esesfiris. Avraham Avinu revealed only Malchus. We're revealing the whole Koima of Elokus, right? And many other interpretations of the word binyan. Says the Rebbe, V'cheinu binyan, this is the case here. The Eitzel Avraham, what Avraham did, he simply gave us an indication, a precedent. And what is it for? His effectiveness was not rak only b'bechinas Havaya l'tat in the lower Havaya. Why? Because Avraham, in his times, could only teach the people about the Eibishter, and as much as Eibishter is the God of nature. Not only because people couldn't handle him, but because it's important for people to appreciate that Yiddishkeit's version of the truth is not that the closer I get to the truth, the further I am from reality. Exactly the opposite. The closer I am to the truth, the more I'm able to pervade reality with that truth. So Avraham started on the siman level. He simply set the stage. Then come the children. We have a far greater effect. What we accomplish, what Yiddishkeit accomplishes. We reveal Taka the Eibishter into the world, and we even reveal not just Eibishter should be revealed, but that there's a oneness between Hashem and His world and the Havaya D'Liyela, a much higher Madrig of Shem Havaya, the God of the supernatural, and the Eibishter that Ein Sof, and there's different Madrigas of Ein Sof, and so forth. But one thing remains constant, and this is the key: that even though we sit on Avraham Avinu's shoulders, and we were given the Torah by the Eibishter at Har Sinai, and we have koiches to reveal much higher in Yonim, it's always Aishel, Be'er Sheva, Olam. It's never that the light of the Eibishter destroys the world. And that's the precedent that Avraham Avinu was setting. Ma'asav is siman, lebanim. What is he a siman for? That whatever Eibishter you reveal has to be in the world, otherwise it's not the kavanah. The idea is in our effort. We bring Mashiach. God has to be revealed. What's the next word? Ba'olam. Ukmeisha calls us in the pasuk, v'nigla kveid Havaya, godliness will be revealed. V'ro kol basa yachtav, all flesh will see. Now, normally the idea is all flesh will see. That even the flesh will see the keach hapel b'nifal. But the emphasis, as we understand it in this maimed, is that the flesh will still be flesh and it will see Eibishter. Sha'abosar atzmei, the flesh itself, yidas kveid Havaya, will see kveid Havaya. Vayno gam Havaya del yil. Achiyah gilui, until there be a revelation, right? And I notice that I circle the word gilui because I think, first of all, that's the key to this maimed. He revealed the Eibishter to the world, but there's another key. When you reveal to somebody, you reveal to the world, not you reveal at the world, not you reveal and destroy the world, because if you reveal and destroy the world, it's not revealed. Reveal to the world. First of all, Eineid Milvadei Olmaylam is Eineid. Chassidus discusses anybody, and I'll tell it you very briefly, and I don't have time. Eineid Milvadei means there's nothing besides for God, without God. Nothing without God means to say that the world is not true. It's God. Ein Oid means there's nothing. There's nothing other than Hashem. And without getting into the ganze Alam, this Ein Oid means there's nothing other than Hashem, means not that because there's nothing besides for Hashem, the world isn't real. It means that there is a world, but the world is Eibishter. Ein Oid is deeper than Ein Oid Milvadei. Ein Oid Milvadei says that because it's Hashem, there's no world as we see it. Ein Oid means the world as we see it is the Eibishter. Has no measure, no limit. Harchava is true broadness. Like it says in the pasuk, Pros is Teishu Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is going to be a wallless city because it's boundless. Hashem broadens our borders. Harchava she'ein gedeilim mimena, our broadness has no limitations. But the other side of that coin is that all of this expansiveness and all of this revelation happens in Aishel, in Be'er Sheva, and Kel Elam. And this is what the Maisi of a similar bonim is. Avraham is setting a precedent. That when you reveal Eibishter in this world, it's never allowed to be at the expense of the world. That's how I understand it. And now the Rebbe says something else, and here I'm completely lost. The same is true also in the Torah. That there'll be a revelation of godliness through the Torah. Now let's pause. Okay? Torah is God's communication to the world. On a more deep level, more elementary level, Torah is the blueprint of the world. Which means say, written into the Torah is the infinite wisdom of God. Or like it says in Tanya from the Zayad, hidden in the Torah is Ein Sof. So here you have a book with 305,000 and several hundred letters, which has in it the Ein Sof. So this very contained, very limited Sefer, this very limited Mikra, hidden behind it is Ein Sof, yeah? So I think what the Rebbe is saying is that as we grow, we reveal more of the wisdom of the Torah. But no matter how much of the wisdom, and even no matter how much of the light of the Torah we reveal it, we're revealing it in the Torah. Otherwise, I don't understand how this connects. He says like this: Gilui, again the word Gilui, revelation. Lamaila, which is above all limits, Gam Me'inyin, even than the idea of Arucham Eretz Mida Rechavim Minyam. The pasuk says about the Torah that it has no limits. But how does the Torah describe the limitlessness of Torah? Arucham Eretz Mida, its measure is longer than the earth, than the land. Urachava Minayam, and its breadth is wider than the sea. So the Torah is bigger than the land and wider than the sea. In other words, trying to illustrate an expansiveness which cannot be described. You know, when you want to say something, you can't say, you say it indirectly. It says the Rebbe, the very fact that you say that the Torah's length is relative to that of the earth, but it exceeds it. And the Torah's breadth is relative to the sea, but it exceeds it. You're saying it's more than the land and more than the sea, but relative to them because you're using them as a mashal. Therefore you have to say that when Mashiach comes, there'll be a revelation of Bechinas HaTorah, even higher level of the Torah, on a level which is even beyond the Eretz and the Yam. And again, I think, if I'm not wrong, that just like we say about the Shama of this Maimed is that you bring the Eibishter into the Pundik, you bring the Eibishter into the Olam. The same is true about the Torah. You reveal the infinity of the Torah in a relative way, in a truly infinite way, into those 305,000, whatever it is, 280 letters, I don't know the number. Like it says in the Pasuk, Kulu Yedem Eisi, we're all going to know the Eibishter. Eisi Mamish Atzim Hutzis Bach, we're going to know the Eibishter. But, what is the last line? V'zei Yizgala B'Torah. we're going to be able to have a sense of the Eibishter himself through the words of the Sefer Torah. Through the Torah you have the Eibishter. So again, I think that the chap, the aspect of this, the depth, so to speak, which the Rebbe is adding to the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer, is he is explaining that it's about the Pundik, it's about Be'er Sheva, it's about Olam, and similarly it's about the Torah. And the Rebbe concludes the Maimer by saying that by discussing it should all happen, since Magid Devarav L'Yankiv Chukov Mishpatel Yisrael, that the Eibishter does what he asks us to do, and since the Eibishter gives us the Shlichus, the Eibishter has to do it also. Top of the next page. The Eibishter should achieve it, that he should also expand. Hashem should broaden our borders from 7 lines to 10 lines. He should make the famous 3 Shleimus. Shleimus Ha'aretz, the wholeness of Eretz Yisrael. Shleimus Ha'am, the wholeness of the Jewish nation. And Shleimus HaTeira, the wholeness of the Teira. That on the one hand, it's very, very much. On the other hand, it's very, very measured. And within that framework, you should have an expression of all of B'li Gevul. And look at the very end of the Maimer. V'eid v'hu ha'ikir, shiyeh kol zeh lamata masarat tfachim. V'eid v'hu ikir, shiyeh zeh tekaf b'yad manush. Okay, so we learned the Maimer. I taught you the Maimer. Do I know if I taught it correctly? Not a clue.